3 weeks since the Hamas terror attack, we remain full of grief and profound loss and nagging fear. But amidst the heartbreak are also stories that give us hope, that give us strength to firm our resolve. These are stories of heroism. Over the weeks, we've asked ourselves, how did this happen? It's an important question, but this morning I'm asking a different question. Not how did so many die, but how did some survive? People survived because of the heroic response of men and women, young and old, civilian and military, of Jew and Gentile. Here are some of their stories. Inbal Lieberman, 59 years old, heard the initial air raid sirens. But as the rockets flew overhead, something didn't feel right. She's heard these sirens many times before, but something felt different this time. In charge of her kibbutz security team, she texted the volunteer squad to come immediately. She passed out rifles and stationed them in positions around the kibbutz. This was really one of the only kibbutzim to survive largely intact. Because of her intuition and quick response, she saved many, many lives. On another kibbutz down the road, there were the wives and children of many of Israel's officers. When a young Druze army tracker saw the terrorists approaching, he took off his army uniform so that he was just wearing a white t-shirt. He called to the terrorists in Arabic, come closer to me, in order to draw them away from the houses. And when the terrorists came close, he opened fire and killed many of them, saving many lives. Of course, some of the stories are both miraculously and tragically. Itai and Hadar Berdichevsky were in their home in Kfar Aza when the attack started. They made their way to the safe room with their twin 10-month-old babies. Itai and Hadar, they figured that this was a routine air raid and that the all-clear signal would soon sound. When it lasted longer, Hadar, the mom, she texted her brother saying that she was annoyed being stuck in this safe room with a kid who had a stinky diaper. All of a sudden, Itai and Hadar heard terrorists trying to come in their front door, and they quickly made their way to the living room to try to hold that door. They were shot and killed. 12 hours later, Israeli troops came into the home. They found Itai and Hadar dead. But what about the 10-month-old twins? Before they left the safe room, Itai and Hadar, they bundled them up and hid them in that safe room. With quick thinking, bravery, and self-sacrifice, they gave their lives to save their babies. I could go on and on with examples, but one more for now will suffice. Reut was stationed down at the Gaza border. She was in the Army Intelligence Unit, and when the attack started, she texted her mom saying, "They're shooting at us." A few minutes later, she called her mom in desperation to explain what was happening. Now, Reut's brothers, Stav and Lior, they heard that conversation with her mom, and they didn't hesitate. They jumped in their car and they sped off from their town 30, 45 minutes away. Incredibly, Stav and Lior managed to get to the base and found Reut alive. They brought her to the car, and as they were doing so, they noticed an Israeli soldier, and they dragged that soldier into the car as well. And so the four of them sped off to get home, driving through what was now a war zone. As they approached an Israeli checkpoint, they pulled out an Israeli flag to identify themselves to move quickly through the checkpoint, at which point the people manning the checkpoint turned and started firing at them. They were Hamas terrorists. Stav, the driver, was hit, but he regained control of the car. He turned around, and somehow, amazingly, he made it to safety to a hospital. Later, Reut was interviewed by the news with her brothers sitting on either side of her. The news anchor asked the brothers, "What were you thinking when you went to save your sister? And what were you thinking when the terrorists started shooting at you?" Stav and Lior, they looked at their sister and they looked at each other. They looked at the reporter and said, "What kind of question is that? We didn't think. Our sister was in danger. We didn't think twice. We went to save our sister." She's our sister, we have to save her. It's an ethic first expressed in our Torah reading. We read in our Parsha of a war between several ancient kingdoms. This is the first war described in human history and the first war recounted in the Torah. Well, apparently, Lot was living in the wrong place at the wrong time. You'll remember that when he and Abraham arrived in Canaan, they divided up and they went their separate ways. Lot went south to Sodom, and Abraham stayed in Canaan. It's not just that the land couldn't support them at the same time. The Torah says that there was discord between them. You went to the right, he went to the left. They had different values and different dreams. But when the war broke out and Lot was taken captive, Abraham didn't hesitate. We read in the Torah, when he heard that his brother had been taken captive, Abraham gathered the troops and pursued as far as Dan, meaning that he went the whole length from north to south of the country, with the promise that God would be his Magen Abraham, his shield. Abraham attacked and he defeated his captors. He didn't take any spoils. He didn't take any land. He brought back Lot and the women and the rest of the people who were hostages. Now, we may usually think about Abraham as a man of faith, but in this scene, he is a warrior prepared to battle to save lives. It's from this passage that we learn the laws of Pidyon Shvuim, of redeeming captives. Unfortunately, hostages, it's not a new thing for the Jewish people. We've been taken captive for centuries, targeted because we are Jews, and because the perpetrators figured that they could extract a ransom. I invite you to join me after lunch today to study the laws and teachings about this mitzvah. Now, if we look closely in this passage in the Torah, the language is noteworthy. 2 times the Torah repeats, Vayeshev et Lot achiv. Abraham brought back Lot, his brother. The thing is, of course, that Lot was not Abraham's brother, he was his nephew. The medieval Spanish commentator Rabbi Alexander explains, this demonstrates Abraham's virtues, for he immediately put aside the conflict that he had with Lot and set out to rescue Lot as if he were his own brother. Hodianu midotav shel Abraham, ki pana el achva velo pana el miriva shahaya benehem, aval nizdarez bedavar ki'ilu hayav achiv mamash. In this way, Abraham answered the question, am I my brother's keeper? With a resounding yes. Recently, I was asked if I had family in Israel, and I said, yes, I have 9 million brothers and sisters. Now, Chaverim, our family in Israel, as we know, is hurting. Few of us will ever be called upon to race through a war zone to rescue someone. But this hour demands heroism, and we can be heroes, mitzvah heroes. Because it's true in Israel as well, not all heroes are serving on the front line. Ordinary Israelis have opened their homes to refugees fleeing from the north and the south. Teens are offering free babysitting. Seniors are giving free rides. Students are collecting and distributing clothing and food. Therapists are giving free sessions to a traumatized nation, and on and on. Everyone is involved because everyone is family. And what was true for Abraham must be true for us, because when family needs you, you show up. And our family needs us, and we have been stepping up. We have young kids here in our community who, last weekend, they organized a bake sale to raise money for tzedakah to send to Israel. They're following the example of adults who are giving generously to support humanitarian efforts. Of course, there's other ways to give, to be a mitzvah hero other than with tzedakah. A week after the terror attack, Hamas called for a day of rage, a day to spread hate and violence to Jewish communities around the world. Well, a group of students at Yeshiva University responded and have called for tomorrow to be a day of loving kindness, a global day of chesed. Their goal is to inspire 1 million acts of kindness to fight hate with love. And the idea has spread to 9 countries and 80 organizations have signed on. They encourage us to smile at a stranger, to visit a home for seniors or a hospital, to donate blood, to buy someone in need a meal, to donate clothes, to pick up trash in a park, and on and on. How tragically beautiful that the Jewish response to hate is a day of love, while for others it is more hate. I want to say a message to our many guests who are here today. For some of you, as Pamela said, being in a Jewish space might be something new. We're grateful that you're here to celebrate with Carter. You too can be a mitzvah hero because we need allies. This week it was reported that anti-Semitism has jumped 388% since the beginning of the terror attack. We're seeing it here in our neighborhood and in our community, in graffiti painted on sidewalks, in our high schools and college campuses where students are being intimidated, in encounters in the grocery store where Jews are being threatened. It can feel isolating and scary. Reaching out to your Jewish friends and neighbors makes them feel seen. Taking the extra step to engage in a conversation about anti-Semitism or Israel, taking time to learn the context of today's war. Now we're approaching mitzvah hero status. Bake sales, giving tzedakah, donating food, learning about today's war, they're all good, all nice mitzvot. But let's be honest, none of these acts will protect Israel from rockets fired on civilians. None will bring back children who are being held hostage in tunnels under Gaza, or bring babies back to life who were brutally and intentionally burned to death. None of these will ease the pains of Gazan civilians who are suffering tremendously and who themselves are held captive by Hamas terrorists who use them as human shields. But in a time of so much worry and agony, 1 million small acts of kindness can push back some darkness and give us hope. And that is our real mitzvah hero challenge at this hour, not to give up hope. After all, we are the people of hope. Hope, Tikva, is our middle name and our national anthem. We survived slavery and exile and pogroms and wars and genocide and on, and we will now as well. Inspired by the mitzvah heroes of the Torah, inspired by mitzvah heroes who established Medinat Israel, the state of Israel, and kept her strong for 75 years, inspired by the resilience of Israelis, we too, when we commit to each other as families and when we commit to mitzvot that sanctifies our lives, we too will get through this. With faith in Magen Avraham, God, the shield of Abraham, Shomer Yisrael, the protector of Israel, we will find courage and light in the weeks and months ahead. Amen.
Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar meod, gesher tzar meod, gesher tzar meod. Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar meod, gesher tzar meod.
Lo
והישמע אזעקה, יש להיכנס למרחב מוגן. השוהים במבנה ייכנסו למעמד נקלט חדר מדרגה או חדר פנימי ויסגור דלתות בחלונות. This is the announcement made hour after hour on Israeli radio. If you hear a siren, please go directly to the nearest shelter. If you're in a building, enter the protected room or the bomb shelter. If there is no shelter, go to the staircase or an interior room, close the doors and the windows. If you're outdoors and are in a developed area, go to the nearest building or shelter. If you're in an open area, get down on the ground. יש לשכב על הקרקע, להגן על ראש באמצעות הידיים, and place your arms over your head. And the announcement concludes, תתפלל שהשם ישמור את עם ישראל מכל רע, and pray that the God of Israel will guard us from all harm. We add our prayers on page 155 with the Musaf service to those of our people. Titpalel sh'Hashem yishmor et am Yisrael mikol ra, that God should guard the Jewish people from all harm.